That's what I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to Higher Ed Pulse, your Monday morning energizer covering insights and trends in higher ed marketing and enrollment. I'm Mallory Wilsey, bringing over 15 years of ed tech and marketing expertise to your earbuds.
And I'm Seth Odell, joining the Pulse with my own adventures from leading marketing at top universities to founding Kanahoma, one of the industry's fastest growing digital marketing agencies.
Each week, we bring you the kind of insider insights you typically only find over cocktails with your pals at a conference.
It's fast, it's fun, and it's designed for you, the busy higher ed professional.
You're not just listening to another podcast.
You're checking the pulse of higher education.
Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher ed professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.
And we're back with another episode of The Pulse live from the ASU+GSV AIR Show. And sitting across from me is Sharan of the Minerva Project. Sharan, please introduce yourself.
Hi, Mallory. Thank you very much for having me on The Pulse. My name is Sharan Singh. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at the Minerva Project. And very excited to chat with you in this energetic environment.
It is incredible, isn't it? Like, we are at the tail end of this event, and it's just been so much energy, so much enthusiasm around AI. Now, tell our listeners more about the Minerva Project, just in case they are not familiar.
Sure, happy to do that. So the Minerva Project is a relatively young organization in the education innovation space. But in a short time span of about 10 to 12 years, we've punched certainly above our weight. We've created Minerva University, which is one of the most innovative and distinctive institutions of higher ed in the world. It was created with the very specific objective of demonstrating an evolved and significantly more sophisticated model of higher education. In the last 2 years, according to the World Innovation Rankings, it's been ranked as the most innovative university in the world. It has put out 4 classes of graduates that are doing quite astonishing things in the world right now, from getting funded startups right out of college to getting graduate placements and working in very interesting companies. And then after getting the institution established and starting to put out graduates, we focused the scaling of our impact via partnerships. And so we have a company, Minerva Project, which is actually now independent of Minerva University. When we first were created, they were synonymous. But Minerva University is an independent, not-for-profit, WASC-accredited institution. And Minerva Project is the organization that owns the intellectual property and the assets that has now learned from creating Minerva University and is partnering with a select group of universities, high schools, even corporations across the world to really drive profound educational innovation and transformation.
Now, what are your goals for being here at the AIR Show and Summit?
Yeah, this is a wonderful space for us for 2 reasons. Because of our positioning as really being on the forward edge of education innovation and doing so and having demonstrated it tangibly. So our founder, Ben Nelson, is doing 3 sessions today between the AIR Show and over at the ASU+GSV conference. So just being able to talk about the work that we're doing, how we're pushing boundaries, how we're continuing to innovate, it's illuminating to the industry. Our mission as an organization is to nurture critical wisdom for the sake of the world. And one way we did that is by creating our own institution. The other way is to work with and partner with existing institutions and create brand new universities. And the third way is to advocate and share. And so it's very important to be in these environments to share our perspectives on education transformation and the use of AI and whatnot. The other opportunity is to get a sense of the tenor of the time. What's the pulse? What are people talking about? So we understand the environment. But I would say, quite candidly, the most beneficial thing about being here is the ability to meet with our partners, meet with our peers, meet new people, the networking, because who is here right now? You are sitting next to, for example, ASU's booth, and there are institutions that are playing in the space that are doing similar things to us. They're listening, they're talking. So it's a very active opportunity to just be stuck in and get a pulse of what's going on right now in the higher end.
And we are on the pulse. So I love that you've mentioned that a couple of times. Now, You mentioned that you have a perspective around artificial intelligence in education, and I would love to dig into that a little bit more. What is that perspective?
So if anybody says to you that they know how artificial intelligence is going to impact in education, good luck on them, right? This is early days. As you can see, even at the AIR Show, there's a lot of early stage companies with hypotheses more than anything else. There are some tools that are coming out, but what seems to be happening right now, just from observing the status quo, is there are efficiency plays. People are thinking about AI. How can we build curriculum faster? How can we provide feedback easier? How can we make the job easier and faster and quicker and more consistent? But I think that is the wrong lens for all of this. This is what is going to happen with a super tool, is sort of supercharging of the education enterprise. And in a sense, it's going to lead to a very aggressive disaggregation, diversification, haves versus have-nots. And let me explain that a bit further. One could say the gut reaction from higher ed to AI has been everybody using ChatGPT. So we need to make sure that we detect plagiarism better. It's a very visceral, transactional reaction to a short-term gain. But the thing is, the way that students are using ChatGPT now is probably in a very rudimentary way. But it's so accessible and it's evolving at such a rapid rate that they're going to get far better at using it, right? And their ability to gamify the system is going to become extremely powerful. So if you think that simply putting in a plagiarism detection software and giving a policy to tell your instructors they can use ChatGPT in the following manner is going to allow you to leverage the AI tsunami, it's completely wrong. Because what I think is going to fundamentally happen is, let's talk about personalized learning. Generally, institutions bring in learners into a program that come from varying backgrounds, varying aptitudes, varying experiences, varying levels of preparedness. And unfortunately, the curriculum is a one-size-fits-all curriculum. So they have to learn a concept, and they read a book, and they participate in an activity, and they do a test. And if you do well, you don't. And you stratify. You tell people you're not good enough, you got a C, or you're great, you did an A. But how do you actually learn from that? But imagine if you had the ability to have a coach, the ability to actually engage with a PDF and discuss it with an AI to better understand it. The person that understands it, great, they move on and they go to the next exercise. The person that doesn't understand it gets to engage and unpackage it and really repackage the knowledge that is suitable to them. So now you actually are getting levels of consistent comprehension and aptitude, right? But if you do that, if a teacher is simply coming into a classroom and lecturing, then there's going to be a oil and water. Students will stop enrolling. I mean, if you want to talk about the existential crisis, the machine will start to become very distasteful. And students will no longer, we're already starting to see it with the enrollment declines. And people think that maybe that's a sign of economic reality and whatnot, but it's a sign of the inefficacy of the system, of the educational model. And so from the way we create curriculum, if you really want to intervene, you have to change curriculum so that you can allow for personalized interaction with material. The way you manage the classroom, how do you generate data? How do you use that data on a real-time basis in the classroom? How does AI coach the faculty and empower the faculty to see things that they didn't see before and do things that they didn't do? How do you take assessment and feedback and data and use that data to coach both faculty and student towards a common direction? That is where the real opportunity is with AI.
Look, we don't operate in an industry that's known for moving quickly or being at the forefront of innovation. And everything that you're saying, like I'm sitting here nodding, I'm interested, I'm bought in, but higher ed just isn't known to move fast. So how are we going to essentially have to convince our faculty members that this is the right direction to move in?
Another way of asking that is, are we going to see the extension of the dinosaurs? Right?
That is another way.
So another thing that nobody knows is the time scale on all of this, right? A lot of what we see at events like this is where people are making bets and plays and whatnot. As I said, it appears very transactional. It appears very specific to how I can do very particular things in the education enterprise. But there's no doubt in my mind, this will all start to converge. Things will start to merge and momentum will start to build. But it'll be a gradual process. I fundamentally think that there's one of two places that the mass extinction will come from. And that is from the students themselves or from the corporate, right? So this morning, Ben and I were in a session with a number of chief learning officers from companies. about talking about the Minerva story and how higher education is evolved and whatnot. And one thing that Ben said to them is that you're part of the problem. If tomorrow you said that we're putting a moratorium on hiring graduates from the Oxbridges or the Ivy Leagues, all of higher education wakes up, right? But they won't do that just yet. What's going to instigate that? Or students. If students start saying, you know what, I no longer need to invest $200,000, $400,000 in an undergraduate degree and then go and do another career. I can do a stackable certificate diplomas. I can do a Google certificate. I can learn how to code and whatnot. We're still sort of playing in that area, but that's picking up momentum. Remote work, whatnot, right? And so the pressure is going to come from above and below, ultimately. And I think that's what's going to lead. My sense is it's going to be a hockey stick. It's going to be gradual, and then at some point, and I would shudder to guess when. My instinct is it's not generations from now, but at some point there's going to be a tipping point, and there could be interesting triggers. A well-known, well-respected higher education institution can say, that's it, we're changing our entire educational model. Harvard does that tomorrow, Oxford does that tomorrow. That's going to have a very significant ripple effect, right? But in terms of where the pressures are coming from, I think it's going to come from the world of employment and from the students themselves and what them and their families are demanding in terms of an effective education.
So there are a number of executive level leaders who listen to this podcast. If they're listening to this interview right now and thinking to themselves, how can I start to lead my institution down this path to build this AI-ready campus and be prepared for this transformation whenever that hockey stick comes around, what advice would you give to them?
Absolutely. The first advice I would give is that the tone from the top. Leaders have to start to basically not just socialize, but champion the need for more, to open our eyes, to embrace the opportunities before us, not run away from the challenges or respond to the onslaught of students using tools to allow them to gamify the system, but rather say, how are we as an institution, how are we going to actually start to have internal dialogue about what works best for us in our, that's the first step. That is a fundamental, universal step that every leader should be doing. Don't run away from it, right? I participated at a university in Mexico. Actually, I would say it's very interesting what's happening in LATAM right now. In the last year, I spoke at 3 innovation conferences in Mexico only on the use of AI in higher ed. And they're not doing it only for their own audience. They're doing it for the, they're inviting their peers or whatnot. But there's an energy around this. So dialogue and debate is happening. The second thing is start to invest in play with this stuff. Not just put policies and say, faculty, do what you need to do. You actually have to make institutional investment. You need to partner, right? And not just with the likes of Minerva or with Element or other organizations. Be here. Pay attention to what's going on. The third thing is, I think, ultimately engage the students themselves. The earliest and quickest adopters of these technologies are going to be the students. And oftentimes, it's a top-down approach. What's the policy at institutional level? What's the enterprise tool that we're going to use? I don't think AI is like that. I think these AI tools are hyper-personalized, hyper-individualized, and therefore engaging with the student body very early on is very important. But we limit it not only to traditional universities. What about corporate learning, right? What about high schools and K-12? There's this whole range where ultimately, for the leaders that are listening on Pulse, there is an opportunity to really seize the moment. And I would say, with respect to that there is a moment. Because what happens if you don't seize the moment, it's going to be a bit late to catch up, and then it becomes existential. But if you're starting to get on the wave early enough, when changes are becoming more substantial, you would have already begun to exercise the muscle.
Sharan, it has been such a pleasure chatting with you this afternoon. Thank you for taking time to do this. Now, if folks are looking to connect with you, where can they find you?
Sure, they can find us at minervaproject.com. That's our website. We have, some very interesting thought leadership on there. There's a section on white papers. We put out a paper on AI in education, which is, I think, probably the best one to look at right now. But Minerva, you can go on our socials. Minerva Project is the name of the organization. And you'll not only see our perspectives on how education should be evolving and transforming, but we also share a lot of examples and case studies on work that we're doing. And we are here to partner and collaborate. So we really look forward to hearing and learning from others. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, folks, we'll put a couple of these key links in our show notes so that you can get direct access to that white paper. It sounds interesting, as well as the website. And any parting thoughts before we wrap this one up?
Just that, I think maybe to just reiterate that now is the time. This is an exciting, absolutely profound moment for higher education. I don't think we should see this as another fad or another trend. This is existential. I want to be very clear about that. Whether people agree with it or not, it is. I think that's the truth. And it's an exciting time for higher education to really reassess its value proposition and make true on it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
The Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify Podcast Network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our show helps higher ed marketers and admission pros find their next big idea and features a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Brian Gross, Eddie Francis, Jenny Lee Fowler, and so many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.